This all bet just ludicrous. Don't you think that you're the reason why your husband is no longer interested in you? No wonder he cheats on you.
That's right. Naomi is much younger and much better than you. Who wants an old woman close to 40?
So, shall we divorce?
Of course, you idiot. File for divorce now. That's an order.
I left them with mixed feelings of despair, revenge, and relief. As I reached into my pocket and grabbed something, a smile came up on my face. Well, goodbye. I'm Della, a 37-year-old housewife. My husband, Levi, is a salesman. I met him through work when I was single. We exchanged business cards and kept strictly a professional relationship at first. From there, dinner invitations gradually increased. Before I knew it, he was contacting me every day. His enthusiastic approach pushed me to become his girlfriend. I knew from a test I took a while ago that it was difficult for me to have a child. My long-time dream of having a happy home with my husband and children was crushed, and I experienced such devastation that I was almost suicidal. Both Levi and my parents were getting to the age when they desired to see their grandchildren. I told them about my condition before they started asking. Both parents were sympathetic. Levi also said, "I want to be with you, Della, no matter what." Those words helped me to overcome the sadness of not being able to have a child. When we got married, we decided to build a fulfilled life for the two of us. 10 years has passed since then. His gentleness of those days were nowhere to be found. We even stopped having meals together. He came home after midnight every night and went to sleep without taking a shower. In the morning, he woke up just in time to go to work. "Are you going to be late again today?"
Yeah, I have to work late.
On his days off, he usually went out to play golf with his clients. When we had planned to go out together for the first time in a while, he canceled at the last minute, saying that he had received an invitation from his best client. I was just a housewife who wanted to support him achieving his career goal. However, by this time, we barely spoke a word to each other. At such times,
"Tomorrow is your birthday, isn't it? Let's go out to dinner for a change."
I was really surprised by his unexpected suggestion. It was also the 10th year of our marriage and a milestone. I was happy to know that even though he was busy, he still cared about me. We decided to meet at a restaurant where we used to go to together. The next day, I put more effort into my outfit and makeup than usual and headed to the restaurant I reserved. Where is he? When the appointed time came, Levi was nowhere to be seen. He didn't respond to my calls and texts. Around the time I was getting uncomfortable with the glances from the waiter, I finally received a call from him.
"Sorry, I can't make it tonight."
"Are you serious?"
"I'm sorry. I still have work to finish. See you later."
I was stunned when he hung up on me. What a birthday. I felt bad for the restaurant, but I lost my appetite from feeling empty and humiliated and left the place. Levi came home past midnight as usual. I was lying in the bed, but my mind was strangely clear and I could not fall asleep. Normally, I acknowledged him, but I feel like I would explode with emotion if I opened my mouth. I pretended to be asleep. He took off his suit and crawled into bed without taking a shower. That night too, he reeked of alcohol and the scent of perfume. It was the smell that had been on him for a while. As he slept peacefully, I recalled the conversation I had with a friend. "I've decided to get a divorce." "What?" When I met up with her for a coffee, she confided in me. The cause was her husband's infidelity. He comes home late every night, smelling of alcohol and perfume. I know he's cheating on me. Indeed, he was cheating on her. She found out for sure and immediately filed for divorce. I realized that Levi and I were in the same situation. When I asked him about the night before in the morning, he nonchalantly brushed me off, saying I was busy. I kept pressing on him, but I'm going to be late for work, and rushed out. I called my friend and asked her for advice. That's definitely cheating. It's unforgivable. Hearing that, I started simmering with anger. I was mad at not only Levi, but went out every night and didn't even try to have a conversation with me, but also at myself. Even thought our marriage had long cooled off, I pretended not to notice. I still don't have any solid proof that he's cheating on me. My friend referred me to a private investigator whom she used to build her case. I decided to do the same. The fee was quite expensive, but I considered it as a cost to move forward. I paid it out of my savings, and in no time, I was presented with proof of the affair. The photos show Levi and a young woman walking arm in arm like lovers. They were shopping at a designer's brand boutique and dining at an upscale French restaurant. Then there were photos of them going into a hotel. The woman in the pictures was a college student called Naomi. She was 15 years younger than him. She worked as a bartender in the restaurant near Levi's office. He was a regular there, and there was how they met. He supposedly fell in love with her at first sight. There were pictures of them drinking heavily at the bar. I knew he was cheating on me. He came home late, didn't eat at home, and smelled of alcohol and perfume. It all made sense. The more I looked at the evidence, the clearer it became that he was spending a lot of money to be with her. Where did all this money come from? I checked online banking in haste. He had taken money out of the retirement savings to finance his affair. There was hardly any money left in the account. I fell to my knees. I can't believe I've been with such an idiot for 10 years. Fury came up from deep inside me. He chose his selfish desire over the future of our marriage. The moment I realized it, I decided to divorce him. I became clear-headed from that point on. I knew that even if I confronted him with the evidence, he would come up with excuses. It was the best to catch him in action. I remember that he mentioned an urgent business trip on Sunday. Old me would have said, "Have a safe trip, good luck," and send him off, but not anymore. My intuition was telling me that he was going to meet up with his lover. I picked up his tablet, took a breath, and typed in his birthday. He was so careless that he came home reeking of perfume, and that his affair was proven in a matter of seconds. It was easy to guess the password. He was not only careless, but a moron. I unlocked it and looked for some information. There were no messaging apps, and I couldn't find any communication with his lover. I found confirmation of an Airbnb booking in his email though. I immediately recognized the famous glamping site and noted the cabin number he had reserved. The day of booking was the Sunday. He was supposed to have a business trip. He'd better watch out. I was determined to confront him on that day. Sunday arrived.
I don't know what time I'll be back tomorrow.
Okay, have a safe drive. I said, "See you later," in my mind. Oblivious to what was stored in his immediate future, he left the house cheerfully. I made careful preparation and headed out to the place. The cabin looked bigger and more modern than it looked on the internet. He had never taken me to such a chic place. I felt even angrier. I went to Levi and Naomi's cabin and knocked on the door.
Yes? Who is it?
I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to check your smoke detector. May I come in? Levi opened the door without any suspicion. He was stunned when he saw me standing in front of him. While he was trying to grasp the situation, I forced myself into the back. I opened the thick curtain that divided the lounge area and bedroom and found Naomi sitting on the bed. She seemed to recognize who I was. Why are you here? She was in shock. I know you guys were looking forward to a fun trip, but it's too bad.
How did you know where I was?
I explained the sequence of events. He came home late every night, the smell of alcohol and perfume, and the investigation. I told him that I checked his tablet and found out his business trip was a lie.
You've been suspicious?
Of course. Ever since my birthday, you have cancelled our dinner. We're done. While we were arguing, Naomi shrieked in laughter. I am amused, Mrs. Have you ever thought that maybe you're the reason he's not interested in you? No wonder he wants to cheat on you.
Yeah, that's right. Naomi is much younger and much better than you. Who wants an old bitch close to 40?
They turned defiant and began to mock me. I tried to hold back my hand from slapping him. Shall we get a divorce then? I took out the pile of divorce papers my lawyer had drafted. He snatched it from my hand. Well, goodbye. I left the cabin. Once I was outside, I put my hand in my pocket. I stopped the recorder that had been recording our conversation. Mission accomplished. I removed my name from the joint tenancy agreement and changed everything else to Levi's name, and then returned to my parents' house. I had asked my brother's friend, who worked in the law firm, to take care of my divorce. He was also my brother Aiden's lawyer. Aiden was running his own business. When he graduated from university, he established a company under the guidance of our father. While I went to work for a major corporation, my father had a big influence on us as we were a family of old money. Even so, we had never experienced a luxurious lifestyle. There was an inherited feud in our grandfather's generation that threatened to destroy the whole family. After my father became the head, they began to live simpler and more solid lives. Aiden and I respected our father very much. So, even after we became independent, we'd been following his teachings and living humbly. Spending money for one's personal greed was absolutely unthinkable. I informed Aiden about the divorce.
A man who doesn't value his family is the worst.
He was indignant. I explained the whole story and mentioned Naomi's name.
I've heard that name before. Maybe.
He then called his HR. Naomi's surname was unusual, so they must have sounded familiar. When he inquired, to our surprise, she had received a job offer from his company. She was apparently very enthusiastic during the interview, saying, "Your company is my first choice." I played him the audio I had recorded at the cabin.
We don't want someone like her in our company. It's nothing related to family matters. She obviously lacks common sense as a member of society.
He immediately called back HR and instructed them to rescind the job offer. A few days later, I was still living with my parents while searching for a job. When I returned home from my interview, I saw the police car live in my house. I asked my parents what had happened and found out that Naomi showed up there. "Offer from my dream job was taken away!" She screamed and threw things in the house. She grabbed my mother and demanded to know where I was, so my father called 911. When she was contacted by Aiden's HR to cancel her job offer, she realized that Aiden and I were siblings. She became hysterical and stormed into my parents' house, claiming that it was my fault. The police subdued her and took her to the station. My parents told the police to just give her a stern warning. When her parents went to pick her up, they told her that she was on her own from then on. They were apparently fed up with their daughter, who caused problems on a regular basis. She lost a job that was lined up for her after graduation and was abandoned by her parents. She became homeless and had to drop out of school. As for Levi, his biggest client was my father's company, which canceled all the contracts. When he found out about it, the blood drained from his face and he fainted. Rumor spread throughout his office, and his colleagues began to look at him with disdain. He had lost his place in the company and resigned voluntarily. There was no way he could quit his job and maintain his existing lifestyle because of the alimony he owed me. He gave up his apartment and moved into a cheaper place. He then tried to rely on Naomi, who kept a bartending job. They got into a heated argument at the restaurant, and the police were called. Naomi wanted nothing to do with him after that. He then began to ambush me around my house. "It was my fault. Please, come back." "What are you talking about now? Stop showing up here." He demanded that we get back together and followed me around like a stalker. When I began to feel unsafe, the one who helped me was James. He was Aiden's PA and our childhood friend. He really put an effort to protect me by patrolling around my house and escorting me. One day, I was walking with James when Levi appeared again.
Who the hell is this guy?
"None of your business."
What does he have that I don't have? Come back to me.
When he grabbed my arm, James quickly shook off his hand and, with a brilliant move, he threw Levi off of the ground. James was a judo grandmaster. He worked as a PA and also served as a bodyguard at Aiden's company. Some girls in the neighborhood witnessed the scene. "Who was that? A stalker? Ew! That move was awesome. I got a good video. I'm sure it's gonna go viral." They were laughing and filming the scene. Levi's face flushed as red as traffic light, and he ran away. He totally deserved it. The guy, who preferred younger women to me, was being ridiculed by them. It was ironic, I thought. I gradually became interested in James after that incident. I eventually found a new job and started dating him at the same time. James told me that he had a crush on me when we were younger. Aiden knew about it, so he was eager to help me expedite my divorce proceedings. It wasn't long before James and I were married. Aiden had always thought about James as his little brother. When we announced our engagement, he was exhilarated that James was becoming family. He was more excited than my father and congratulated us. I promised myself that I would always cherish those who love me.
My name is Rachel. I am 30 years old and I work in a company. I just got married this year to my husband, Dominic. The only difference about our marriage compared to a normal marriage that everyone generally has was that my husband had 2 stepchildren. Dominic had 2 sons, and they were from Dominic's previous wife who had passed away last year. The eldest son, whose name is Julian, was 10 years old, and the youngest son, whose name is Matt, was 8 years old. After marrying Dominic, I suddenly became a mother to Julian and Matt. But despite that, Matt had accepted me as his mother right away. Compared to Matt, Julian did not easily open up to me very much, and he always spoke awkwardly and was being a little cold to me. Well, knowing that their mother had just passed away, I was only hoping to get closer to Julian, bit by bit. Then, 2 years into our marriage, I found out that I was finally pregnant, and a healthy daughter was born. Although the distance between Julian and I still remained the same, he was very protective of my daughter, Sarah, and loved her as his own little sister. After marrying Dominic, our family got along pretty well, but there was just one big problem, and that was that my husband's parents would bully me non-stop. Both my father-in-law, Kurt, and my mother-in-law, Leah, bullied me whenever they had the chance. Kurt and Leah should have been happy to know that I got pregnant with Sarah, but instead, they both only blamed me for having Sarah, who had a huge age difference from Julian and Matt, saying that it would be easy for people around me to find out that they were half siblings and whatnot, and that people would talk and gossip behind our backs about it. At the time when they were blaming me for it, I questioned the humanity of these people, wondering what they were talking about. Do Kurt and Leah live their lives worrying about such petty things just so that they would always look good to other people? I really couldn't understand the mindset of these people. My husband and I were both working, so we often left our kids back at Kurt and Leah's house for them to look over, and which is why Dominic and I often had dinner at Kurt and Leah's house after work. Leah would sarcastically criticize me by saying, "You are a woman, but you do not do anything around the house at all, but just does what she has to do and has a child. What a disgraceful woman you are." And she would say such things like this whenever she has the chance, especially when the kids are not there. Kurt would also try to accuse me of something whenever he has the chance as well. I couldn't really remember every little things that they said to me in the past because I have been lectured and yelled by both Kurt and Leah many times. What was even worse was that Kurt and Leah would intentionally leave out my portion of the meal at dinner and would share my portion to everyone else. And seeing this, Leah would say, "Huh? Your portion is missing, Rachel. But, oh well, you're on a diet, so you don't have to eat so much, Rachel," as she laughed at me. She's saying that I don't have to eat so much, but to be precise, I wasn't even allowed to eat any of it. And while all this was happening, Dominic just ignored the whole situation and me, and didn't even try to help me. What Dominic only did was just eat his food without a care in the world. In the midst of all this, the kids would try to be on my side. Matt would say, "I'll give you this then," and he would try to share his food with me. And Julian, who usually doesn't talk much to me, would also say, "You know, this is delicious," and would share the delicious food onto my empty plate. Seeing this interaction between my kids and I, both Kurt and Leah were not happy about it. But I ignored how unhappy they looked, and I just accepted both Julian and Matt's kindness towards me. I think the only thing that saved me was the fact that the kids were on my side. Without the kids, I would have had a mental breakdown and collapsed way earlier. But even so, Kurt and Leah's bullying towards me never ended, and little by little, I was being driven into a corner. But, as usual, my husband was being very unreliable. I mean, actually, Dominic is completely on Kurt and Leah's side. The other day, Dominic would even say this to me: "Don't you dare embarrass my mother and my father too much." By saying this, it seems like my husband is saying that the fact that the kids are sharing the food with me is making both Kurt and Leah aware that they are being mean and bullying me. But isn't that what's actually happening? That both Kurt and Leah is bullying me? So why should I be the one to be always blamed? I couldn't talk to anyone about what was happening and my feelings about it, and I was just all on my own. I thought about divorcing Dominic, but I couldn't go through with the divorce because Sarah had just been born. And as I was worrying about all these things, before I knew it, 2 years had passed while I was in this miserable situation. And compared to 2 years ago, I had lost about 33 pounds, and not just my body, but my face and cheeks got thinner than before. My weight was average to begin with, so when I lost 33 pounds, I looked unhealthy, as if I were malnourished because of not getting to eat enough. The people at work must have thought that there was something wrong with me physically, because they began to be very concerned about my health. One of the people from HR even held an interview with me to check and see if I was being subjected to power harassment, thinking that I might be suffering from all the stress and pressure at work. And every time that interview was held, I would reply, "There is nothing wrong," and showed no signs of what was actually wrong. I really do think that there was something wrong with me at the time, as there were so many problems that I guess I didn't even know what the actual problem was anymore. And then one day after the New Year's, Julian, who was now 15 years old, suddenly spoke to me. Are you okay? Are you sure you're not pushing yourself too much?" I was really surprised that Julian had even talked to me like this, because I thought that he didn't really like me to begin with. And since I thought that Julian didn't really like me, I didn't really want to bother him, which is why I didn't try to talk to him much. And this is the reason why I have been living with Julian for many years, with a distance between our hearts. But then, as of now, I just received such sudden kind words from Julian. And now, reflecting back, I realized that actually Julian was always there for me, even when I was being treated badly by Kurt and Leah. And even if we didn't talk to each other, Julian would even share his portion of the meal with me. And Julian would also take care of Sarah very well, and like that, he was really reliable. So, when Julian had asked me how I was, tears began to well up, and I cried and cried, as if everything that I had been keeping to myself just exploded. I know, it was pathetic of me to cry my eyes out in front of a 15-year-old boy, but I just couldn't stop crying. Then, while I sobbed, I told Julian about all the feelings I had been holding back until then. And to that, Julian listened to all what I had to say silently. Even I could rely on Julian, who was only 15 years old, much more than my husband, who was an adult. After I had finished my story, Julian had finally opened his mouth. "What do you want to do, Mother? Do you want to leave that man?" I want a divorce. I really want to just get away from that man and his parents. And I think doing that is so much better for you, Mother. I think you have really worked hard and endured a lot until now, Mother." Hearing Julian say this, it made me cry a lot again. I felt so much more better after talking to Julian about everything. So, after that, I talked to my husband and asked him for divorce. Anyways, I wanted to take my daughter and get away from this lousy man and his lousy parents as soon as possible. Once he heard about me wanting a divorce, Dominic turned really red and yelled at me. But in the end, he said, "Oh, do whatever you want. I don't care anymore," and signed the divorce papers. Dominic and I both agreed that I would leave the house in a week so that I would have the time to pack my things and my daughter's things. Then, while I was getting busy packing our things, Julian spoke to me once again. If it is possible and if it's okay with you, could you take us with you?" "What do you mean?" "Well, actually..." Julian then began to tell me the most horrible story I have ever heard of Dominic. That man burned all the photos of our mother that Matt and I treasured so much, since that was the only memory we have of her. He also wouldn't let Matt and I go to our grandparents' place, who is on our mother's side, and we both still haven't been able to see and greet them properly even after our mother passed away. Plus, Matt and I haven't even been allowed to visit our own mother's grave. I heard that our grandparents on our mother's side also wants to come see us, but that stupid man is telling them not to visit us. I was absolutely mortified and speechless when I heard that story. Kurt and Leah are terrible, but my husband is just as terrible as them. I really wanted to take Julian and Matt with me as well. When I told him this, Julian looked really relieved and laughed. I felt as if this was the first time ever I saw Julian's genuine smile. He then thanked me, saying, "Thank you so much. And I am also really sorry for being so awkward and cold around you until now." And for the first time, I felt as if I had become a proper mother to my eldest son, Julian. After that, Matt joined into the discussion. "I want to go with you too, Mother." I was really determined to take them both with me. I then contacted Julian and Matt's maternal family and took them to meet their grandparents finally. Their grandparents cried when they finally got to see their grandchildren for the first time in years. It seems like the grandparents were always worried about how Julian and Matt were doing. I then told them that I was in the middle of divorcing Dominic and wanted to take Julian and Matt with me. They agreed to my idea, and not just the grandparents, but the uncles and aunts of Julian and Matt also offered to provide financial support for me to take Julian and Matt away from Dominic. As I was going to be a single mother after I divorced Dominic, this was such a generous offer I could ever get in my life. So, I decided to take their word for it. Both Julian and Matt were also very happy that they would be able to see their grandparents whenever they wanted. And they both had smiles on their faces that they had never shown at home before. A few days later, Dominic, Kurt and Leah, Julia and Matt and I had a big family meeting at Kurt and Leah's house. As for my daughter Sarah, I left her at my parents' house. My husband has a really short temper, so I thought that Sarah could wake up and cry when Dominic lost his temper during our discussion. When I told Kurt and Leah about the divorce, they got very furious and angry, and they screamed at me, saying terrible things to me. What kind of woman and a mother are you? I have never met a woman like you, and you are just the worst.
What do you think you're doing with our son? Do you think that he's an ATM machine who just provides the family with money?
That's why I didn't want Dominic to marry someone like you, and I was against the whole marriage in the first place. You irresponsible, selfish woman. You should go to hell.
My goodness, even I feel like I got tricked into marrying a woman like you. I can't believe that you were such a horrible woman. I truly feel like I've been scammed.
How could they even ignore the fact about what they have been saying and doing things to me all these years and still say such terrible things to me? I ignored the words of what Dominic, Kurt, and Leia had said and proceeded to ask, "Is it correct that I get custody of Sarah?" and tried to continue with the discussion. Kurt and Leia both expressed their disapproval that their insults didn't get to me and said, "Of course, you should take Sarah with you," in a very uninterested manner. I guess they feel that since Sarah is a girl and girls are not compatible to be the family's heir, they didn't want her.
Well then, that's the end of our discussion. Since you've finished packing your bags, then get the hell out of here.
I'm glad a disease like you will be gone from our house. And at that moment, Julian began to open his mouth. I have something to say.
What do you want?
Matt and I are also leaving with Mother.
Huh? What the hell are you saying?
We don't want to continue living with you anymore. You ignore everything terrible about what you did and what you said to Mother. But from our point of view, Mother was a much better parent than you.
What did you just say, you piece of shit? How dare you talk to your own father like that? All you both have to do is just obey and listen to what I have to say.
That's what I'm exactly talking about. And that's exactly what I can't stand about you. That you try to control everything and everyone so that everything would just go your way. Even our mother who passed away, she suffered so much pain because you were being like that. And in the end, she took her own life because of you. And not only you, but Kurt and Leia, this is all your fault too. You used to talk to our mother who passed away just as bad as how you talk to our mother right now. Did you think we would notice what you were all doing just because we were kids? You are all terrible people, and you all disgust me so much. Matt and I are both so ashamed to be related to people like you. Julian's harsh words pierced right through Dominic's, Kurt's, and Leia's hearts. Both Kurt and Leia looked down in silence, as if they could not say anything back to Julian. But Dominic was trembling, and because of his stupid pride, he shouted,
"Shut up! I don't want to be with you and Matt anymore. Get out of here, all of you."
And seeing my husband, who was completely freaked out about what Julian had said, didn't seem to be scary at all to me anymore. So, before we left, we looked at Dominic while we all glared at him, and I said, "Well then, I guess we won't be seeing each other ever again. Goodbye." And we all left the house together. Well, I was still willing to take whatever I could get, so I hired a lawyer and filed for compensation because of the emotional distress Dominic, Kurt, and Leia had caused, and for child support. Afterwards, I moved into a newly rented apartment with my beloved Julian, Matt, and Sarah. with the support of my son's grandparents and aunts and uncles, as well as the child support, we were all able to live in a reasonably nice apartment. Each of the kids get to have their own rooms, and I would have my own room too. There will be many challenges and difficulties ahead as a single mother, but with the help of my sons and my daughter, we will work together as a family to overcome these obstacles. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.